Hey, it's December 22nd. Gonna bring you a little fishing report. It's been a couple weeks. I said I'd try to keep you updated as things changed, and they haven't really changed a whole lot in 2 weeks. You know, water level, if anything, it's changed. It's kind of come up a little bit. It's kind of odd, but this time of year, you know, late December, and we're pretty much summer pool. It's 659.12, I believe it was this morning when I looked at it, and it's been 659 and a half, you know, 659 and a quarter, which is pretty much full pool. You know, 660, 659.9 I think is full pool, and that's kind of where we're at right now. So, you know, there's a lot of water in the lake still for the winter time, and it's still kind of got fish just kind of scattered, moving around. You know, we're out here fishing today. You know, it's pretty nice. It's 62 degrees, I believe, today. You know, bright, sunny, calm, and that's just going to kind of warm that water a little bit, just up by the bank, up by these dark rocks. You know, the water temp right now is 48 degrees, so 47, 48 today. You know, and that's still probably at least 6 or 8 degrees warmer than we normally are this time of year. And, you know, in the winter, you know, 5 degrees is a huge difference, you know, compared to, say, summertime. You know, if it's, whatever, 70 or 75 degrees, no big deal. But in the winter, if you're talking 48, 50 compared to 42 to 43, that's a huge difference. You know, basically, you know, in the wintertime, I like fishing that little bit cooler water. You know, it really starts bunching them fish up as a water temp cools down, and as the water level drops like we're used to. You know, by now we should be 2.5, 3 foot below normal pool, and you get back into like a creek like we are today. You know, it'll generally just push all them fish to that little steep bank. You know, maybe back in a creek, you know, just inside a creek, midway, or even, you know, towards the back like we are here. You know, normally we could pick a bank out and say, okay, they're going to be on this 30-yard stretch. But today, boy, we've fished for quite a while now. We've caught a few fish, not setting it on fire today, but we're covering a lot of water too. You know, we're kind of fishing from just inside this creek, and we fished all the way back to the back here, just to catch, let's see, we caught 3 fish along there, and they're spread out. They're kind of spread out. They're not bunched up yet. So it's making the fishing still pretty tough. You know, I'm going to say for bass, you can catch them though, you know, and we're throwing a different assortment of baits still. You know, obviously we're throwing a little winter jig. I call it a little finesse jig. This is just a little 3/8 ounce zapper, Ozarks crawl. You know, it gets real simple for me once this water temp drops down. You know, we'll say 48 and below, or even, you know, even closer to 45 is where I'd prefer it. And that water level gets down, say 650, 655, 6. You know, somewhere in there, it starts pulling down. Then fish react to the water dropping, and they also react to the water temp dropping. It just makes things a lot simpler for me anyways. You know, just a little finesse jig with a get a ring crawl in the back is all I'm throwing there. You know, that's what I prefer to throw. It's not that simple just yet. We're still throwing some crankbait. Denise caught a decent little keeper here just a few minutes ago on a little rock crawler. That's that stone cold color. You can kind of see it's kind of a brown back with almost a turquoise bottom. We're up here fishing. The water's a little bit dirtier. You know, something with a little brighter colors like that may make a difference. I think it's more about it rooting around in rocks. Right after she caught it, I asked her if it was hitting them rocks. She said, yeah, it's digging in the rocks. And as soon as it digs and it came off of them rocks is where she got that bite. It was probably, I don't know, maybe a 3-pounder. So far the best fish we've caught today, and it was on a crankbait. So, you know, I'm throwing a little jig. I'm throwing 2 different jigs. I'm like the Ozarks crawl. I'm throwing a brown purple scale with a swamp bug trailer on the back, something with a little more movement. You know, And then also we're still throwing this little swim bait. Kind of got onto that there a few weeks ago. This is just a 4.5 Kitech. The best way I found to rig it is on the Gator Lock jig head. You know, this is the one with the wire keeper that holds a soft plastic on it real well. These Kitechs are real soft, and they want to tear, or you know, you catch a fish or two and they just pull off of the head. So if you use this Gator Lock jig head, that wire goes through the body of that, hooks on the shaft of your hook, and holds that bait on it real good. It's got a real good stout, you know, mustad hook. And you know, it hooks up real well with the fish. It's kind of an open hook. You know, they grab it, and you're going to hook up real good with them. I caught a fish here just a few minutes ago on that. It was a brush pile kind of right in the center of this creek. It was about 15 foot. And I could see there was some fish on it. And I just threw this out there, let it sink down. It's a good bait. Like if you get some brush piles that are a little bit deeper, you're not necessarily want to throw the Alabama rig, or you just wanting something that's going to swim by these fish and get them to react. This is a perfect little setup. You know, I let this bait drop down. I watched it on a live scope. It dropped down beyond that brush pile, and I just started swimming it up to that brush. And as it got to it, I could see the fish, you know, start react kind of slowly, and I could give it a little twitch, and boy, he come out there and grabbed it. You know, it was just little 15-incher, but boy, he really reacted it, you know, to that bait. So it's just something I've been using here the last several weeks and catching a lot of fish on. I'm sure down below, or not below, but lower lake, where that water's a little clearer and still a little warmer, they're probably going to react to it a little better. You can probably just throw it right to the bank and swim off of the bank, and catch quite a few. I was catching a few last week and the week before, just throwing right up to the bank and just swimming that thing off of the bank like the big shad would be up there. You know, caught quite a few fish doing that. So I'm just throwing that on a 7-foot rod with 15-pound fluorocarbon on that. You know, just a 7 to 5 reel, just kind of an average all-around reel on that. My jigs, I'm throwing my jigs on, and that's actually a Bass Pro qualifier reel. It's 7.5 is the fastest they make in that, but it's a really good reel for the money. You know, I've actually got several of them. They're really good quality reels. You know, on my jigs, I'm still throwing my jigs on my Lew's. This is that Hypermag 8-to-1 gear ratio, really light rod or reel, you know, extremely light. And I'm throwing a little bit, I'm throwing 12-pound test, and this is a Falcon Cara finesse jig rod. So, you know, on the jig setup, I'm a little more particular. I want a really light setup, you know, so I can feel these light bites in the wintertime. You know, on something like that swim bait, not as critical, because you're kind of just retrieving that bait. You know, you want the right setup, but it's not as critical as like the jig setup, you know, because when they hit it, you feel them, you're going to set the hook. So crankbait setup, we're throwing a crankbait on a this is the Pro Qualifier in a 5-to-1 gear ratio, you know, rigged up with 12-pound fluorocarbon. And this is that new Vertus rod I've been talking about a little bit. The Sapphire series, it's a 7-foot medium. It's a perfect setup for that crankbait. You know, it's got a lot of a limber tip, you know, real forgiving tip. When you set the hook on them fish and they're playing and they pull that rod, that tip will really give, and hopefully preventing some of these smaller treble hooks from pulling out of the fish as they grab like the back end or just that last, you know, treble hook. So, you know, crankbait rod, crankbait setup is pretty particular, and it's got to be the right setup, you know, to keep that crankbait the right speed, the right depth, and then when you catch the fish or hook a fish that you can actually get them in. You don't, you know, on a crankbait, especially in the winter, you don't want to horse them fish at all. You just kind of want to let them play a little bit. You know, they got a little bit of play in them, but they're going to wear out pretty quick. And as long as you can keep them hooked until they kind of wear down, you're going to be able to get them into the boat. And, you know, a lot of times in winter, they just kind of sneak up behind that crankbait and nip at it, and they'll grab it, and they'll get just that last treble hook So you got one treble hook and that real soft piece of mouth, and you just want the right rod set up to give. So when they're pulling, or they might give you just one little you know, series of fight in them, and if you can keep them hooked before they, you know, while they're doing that, right before they wear out, you know, you're going to keep them hooked, and your hookup and land percentage is going to be a lot better as long as you've got the right rod and reel setup. So, you know, other bait here we've been throwing a little bit, starting to catch quite a few fish on it. Been catching a lot of smaller fish. Now and then a better one. As that water cools down, it'll get better. And obviously it's jerk bait. This is just a mega bass. I call it just the goldfish. It's just kind of a black back, gold, and an orange belly. I kind of like throwing this a little bit in that dirtier water, or if it's cloudy out, and I'll throw it on 8 or 10 pound fluorocarbon. Setup for this is pretty particular too, pretty important. This is a Falcon Cara Rod jerk bait special. So obviously it's made for jerk baits. It's the Lew's Light Magnum reel. It's a really light reel. This one here is 8-to-1, also not that critical as far as the gear ratio jerk bait fishing, because you know, you're working your bait, you're letting it sit, you're working it, let it sit, and then when you hook them, you know, you're gonna ease them in. Same deal with the crankbait. You don't want to horse them in any way. You're not trying to, you know, get them in the boat in a big hurry. If they're coming your way, keep them coming. But if they want to fight, let them fight a little bit. Let them fight their way. You know, they're gonna fight out pretty quick. But you got to have that light tipped rod, light action, so it'll give with them fish as they're pulling. Because these, you know, the treble hooks on these jerk baits, they're a lot smaller too. So, you know, it's nothing to have just one set in them fish's mouth. You know, obviously you like them to have the whole thing in their mouth crossways. You got every hook in them, but most of the time it's 1 or 2 little hooks. So, you know, you don't want to over horse them on a stick bait either. So, you know, and the other baits we're starting to throw quite a bit as that water drops in temp here and there, another 3 or 4, 5 degrees. The old swamp bug, you know, and I'm throwing several different colors throughout the year. You know, probably my favorite is this moss candy. I just throw it on a 1/4 ounce Crocodile shaky football head. You know, and I throw it on 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon, a light rod. This is another Cara finesse jig rod with the Hyper Mag Lew's reel. Just really light, and a lighter rod setup. You just can feel everything that bait's doing on the bottom as it's coming over rocks. You know, in the wintertime, I really downsize your baits. You know, these fish, and it doesn't matter, 5, 6 pound bass, he'll eat just a little swamp bug or a little finesse jig, because he just doesn't need a whole lot in the wintertime. As their metabolism slows down, they just need a couple little bites throughout the day, and they're good. So, you know, it's easier for them to chase down or grab or digest just a small bait, or a small crawfish or small shad. So that's kind of why they just go after smaller baits a lot of times in the wintertime. So that swamp bug, that's probably #1 winter bait as it gets a little cooler, say closer to 42, 44 degrees. I don't remember if I said it or not, but I throw that on 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon also. You know, the crappie's just been excellent here. We've caught several here. We've got some in a live well, and we're just continuing to throw that the little Kitech 3-inch little easy swimmer, easy shiner it's called, in all kind of different colors. We got I bought some with purple on it. I bought just a natural color shad. I got some with a little chartreuse on it. Just, it really doesn't matter. You get it down there in front of them, and I'm throwing these more on like open brush piles, maybe open drops. As they get in the evenings, a lot of these fish have been getting out on the shade of these docks, and you can just cast it, count it down, and then swim it through them, and they're going to chase it and grab it, catching a lot of fish on that. If we're shooting docks though, you know, it seems to me like shooting, you know, just a Bobby Garland, you know, like this chartreuse and white has been good. There's just several of this natural blue blue ice is called. This one here is monkey milk. You know, there's several of them. Those are working better for shooting, and we're rigging those on those like this here little crappie head with the coil on it. That little coil spring on it. You put your bait on there like you normally would. Hold your bait like this, and twist it several times on there, and then you come in here and you twist the head on up, and it'll run up tight to your head. And as you shoot them crappie jig up underneath them docks, then they'll it won't slide down on you and come off of your hook so easy. So, you know, if you're shooting, that's a definite must to have. I've just found myself I'm using these on everything now. Every crappie jig, the little shiner, because them are real soft. It just holds on to the bait and keeps it from tearing up so easily. You know, boy, as far as areas of lake, we fished down lake last couple days. The other day I had a crappie trip down lake. We went out, father, son. The son was 7 years old, and we just went out and found a couple of them brush piles out in the open, and we just threw those little shiner, little Kitech shiners out, let them sink down. We were, you know, half of the fun with the 7-year-old was we was just watching the live scope, watching that bait sink down to them and swim over them. You watch them crappie come up and grab it. So that was half of the fun of that trip. But we did caught several nice crappie and had a good day for late December. You know, you can't beat it. You know, the crappie continues to be really good. If you're interested in coming down and catching a bunch of crappie and going home with a lot of crappie, we can definitely help you with that right now. The bass fishing, it's been okay. It's been getting better. We'll have one day, we'll have a really good day. And then, of course, like winter, the next day, it'll be pretty slow, you know. And generally, in the winter, we'll have, I don't know, there's a feeding period sometime throughout the day. It might be towards the morning, it might be noon, it might be 1 or 2 o'clock. Sometime during the day, those fish are going to feed. It might only be an hour, and you might catch, you know, 6, 8 fish in that 1 hour, hour and a half, and 3 or 4 of them might be really nice fish. You know, you got the deal about winter fishing is you almost have to fish hard all day and be fishing the exact right stuff. So when they do go to feed, you're fishing the right stuff, and you can capitalize on that feeding period. And that obviously is going to be a steeper bank, something related to a steeper bank. And when I say steep, the boat can be sitting in 10 foot of water, just a flip off of the bank. That's plenty steep. Or you might be sitting in 25 foot of water, you know, a flip off of the bank and steep bank too. It's just depending on what they're relating to, what the shad's doing. You know, if you get towards the backs of the creek and it's still full with a lot of shad, I'd stick around back there. There's less water, less place for them to be, your odds are better. If the further I get out towards the main lake, you might see shad. There's gonna be a lot of shad, but there's a lot more water, a lot more places for these fish to be. And it seems to me, you know, my odds go down. So the shallower I can fish, the better in the winter. But sometimes you just gotta read the fish, see what the fish are doing, see where the majority of shad are at, and which fish are feeding. And you almost have to do that daily to kind of figure out what area of the creek or cove is going to be best. You know, you can start on main lake and head on in. Obviously, hit these little windy points, breezy points. If it's really windy, blasting in on it, it doesn't seem to be as good as just a nice little breeze. You know, maybe 6, 8 mile an hour wind blowing directly in on a point. You know, you're probably going to catch more fish on a point like that, isolated, pretty tight point, I guess I would call it. It's going to bunch some fish up on there. You know, and that'll be a productive point for you. And a lot of times that'll work for crappie, bass. you know, either deal, they're all kind of relate to the same type of structure. It might push the shad towards that point. The shad might be relating to that wind. You know, you never really know exactly why they're there or relating to it, but it's just a proven technique. Just windy points, maybe secondary points, even third point. You know, back in the creeks, or even main lake points. You know, you just kind of jump around till you start getting the bites. When you do get a bite, you can slow way down because there's going to be a concentration of fish there. Like I said, they're still a little bit spread out now. You can catch them all over, but as we get a little cooler, and it's coming, you know, another week or two, each day the sunlight is less. The fish know it. You know, we've been cleaning a ton of crappie here lately, and they're all full of eggs. So you know, it's December, but the crappie and the bass, they spawn pretty much the same time of year. So if the crappie are full of eggs, the bass are full of eggs. They're going to relate to, you know, steeper banks, but they'll favor. They're milling around and some of the little pockets off of some creeks. You know, they're thinking about spawning, even though it's still a few months off. They still know their clock's going, and they're thinking about it. So you just gotta kind of keep an open mind when you're out here in the wintertime. Don't think every fish goes deep. You can catch them 25 foot right now, and believe me, you can catch them in 2 foot right now. So you just kind of got to really work. You know, maybe like somebody always suggests people just pick a creek and start on the point and work the entire creek. I mean, every bit of it, both sides of it, the sunny side, the shady side, the deep side. You know, a little flatter. Just pick one creek and work the entire thing with a variety of baits, and just work it slow until you start getting the concentration of some bites. And as soon as you do that, then you can pretty much go to any creek, any area in that creek where you started catching them, you know, compared to where you were catching them when you were kind of testing it, and then kind of set yourself up a pattern and go from there. So, man, that's about all I can really tell you right now. The other thing, you know, like this time of year, it's winter time. It's a good time of year to, if you're not fishing every day, is start doing some boat maintenance. And you've heard me say it over and over. The most important piece of equipment on this boat, you know, this is a 20-foot Ranger, got a 250 Emerald on it. It's full of Garmin electronics. You know, the live wells, your aerator, your lights, everything. Nothing on this boat works unless you've got some batteries, and decent batteries, good quality batteries. I'm running them Deca brand AGM Group 31s. You know, the wholesale batteries outfit out of Kansas City and St. Louis is where they're based. They have distributing places all over. But just get on their website and look up all they have to offer in batteries. If you have any questions, one good thing I like about wholesale batteries is you can call them guys, and they are knowledgeable guys. And no matter who you talk to up there, you just tell them what you got. If you have any issues with something, say you're getting a new boat, you're rigging a new boat, you're having issues with the boat, with the electronics or whatever, tell them what you're running. Tell them exactly what units, because these guys are familiar with their units. They're familiar with the different brands of boats, and they're going to tell you what battery is going to be best for you. You know, they've got the new lithium batteries coming out. Can't wait to try them. But I've been running these AGM Group 31s for the last 2 years, and I've had no issues. You know, with these electronics, the electronics are so important these days. If they're not working properly and they're not getting a proper voltage, and your boat is not maintaining, or your batteries are not maintaining the proper voltage throughout the day, the entire 8-hour day, and it starts to drop on you, you're going to start having issues with your electronics. You know, your live well's not going to pump like it should. You're going to fish all day, you're going to get ready to go in, your big motor's not going to start. So just make sure, you know, you've got the right equipment, the right battery. I can't stress that enough. And what I was getting to was the maintenance on it. It's a good time. I probably about every 3 months, 3 to 6 months, I'll just go back to my battery terminals. I'll disconnect everything. I'll take every wire off, every connection off. You know, 'cause you got connections for your live well, connection for your lights, connection for your electronics, and anything else you have on your boat, you know, going to your battery terminals. I can't tell you how important it is to take them off, take you a wire brush, scrub them, each terminal, maybe take you some emery paper, a little sandpaper, rough that up, make sure you got a good clean brass showing through, and then clean your battery terminals, whether you're using the side mount, the top mounts, whatever it is. You got to stay after those. Don't let any corrosion get on there. There'll be a film will work up on that from being damp, from charging. You know, I charge my boat every single day where it's on the charger. So, you know, that them electricity back and forth, it'll create a film on there. You wouldn't think so, but it does. And any barrier between your connection and your battery terminal is gonna limit or hamper your electronics or anything on that boat from getting the proper voltage. So I just can't stress how important that is. And the winter time's a perfect time to do that. You want to be in the boat. You know, it might be too cold out. You might not be able to get to the lake, but you can do your maintenance and your actually preventive maintenance. So when you do get ready to go, your batteries are fully charged. And if they're fully charged, you're going to get the proper amperage to all your components on your lake, on your boat. So if you haven't done it lately, take each one individual, take them off. You know, one little deal I'll do, I'll take a zip tie, I'll pull them all off. You know, you might have 5 or 6 different terminals. Put you a zip tie through them so you've got them all there. You don't forget one when you go to put them back on. They don't fall down in behind the battery or, you know, in the back compartment. Keep them all lined up, take off one at a time, clean it real good, put it back in your terminal, do each one individual, put them on there, tighten them up, and you know, that'll ensure you will have you know, all the power you need. So, you know, kind of went a little long with that, but it's a very important part of the boats. It's the #1 most important element, part, equipment you wanna whatever you want to say. I don't care what boat you run, what battery you run, what electronics. The battery is the #1 thing on your boat. So, boy, we'll continue to keep you up to date here as things change. Hopefully this lake starts dropping. We need it to drop down about 3 foot, and we need that water temp to drop another 5 degrees. That stick bait bite's going to come on real good. Your jig bait bite's going to come on real good. You know, I know some guys are catching them on the Alabama rig already. That's going to really fire up real good. There's several tournaments, you know, throughout January, February. You know, Bass World Sports has one. Bass and Bob has a winter series. There's another one out of Shawnee, I believe it's a polar bear series. You know, there's several tournaments going to go on throughout the winter. So if you want to get out, you know, there's going to be plenty to fish. So you know, get down here. It's an awesome time of the year to fish. You know, you can pick your days in the winter time. We're going to have cold days. This morning it was 26 degrees. We weren't in no hurry to get out here. You know, it was about 11:30, 12 before we got out here, but it's beautiful out here right now. So if you get a chance, get down here, enjoy the lake. If we can help you in any way, you know, please give us a call. 573-204-9005 is my phone number. You can get a hold of us on jdillbass@gmail.com. You can get a hold of either one, myself or Denise. We'll be glad to take you out, catch you a mess of crappie, or teach you and show you how we like to fish in the wintertime down here. So if we can help us, give us a call. If not, when you get down here, be safe. Hope everyone has a Merry Christmas. The 2022 is maybe a better year for everyone. This past year's just been a scrambled mess, it seems like. But just don't forget what's really important. You know, like I said, just safe travels if you're traveling to see family, friends, whatever it is. And hope to see you down here on the lake soon. Until next time, we'll see you.